Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Rant. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. If I'm a little bit, if I'm a little bit on the confused side, just know that I'm going through a few issues. But please bear with me. Please bear with me. How are all you guys doing? I hope everybody's doing just fine. You know what? We are going to get this done. Thank you so kindly for sharing, Michael Rudnin. Please, everybody, if you're just joining us, please remember that is one of the most important things for us to do, and that is to share these shows so that everybody can really start to see what's really going on out there. We are an independent news network. Our whole goal with our blogs, our whole goal with our shows, our whole goal with our books, everything is towards the cause, the progressive cause, to make sure that we are all well informed, that we are all ready to do what needs to get done. So thank you so kindly, everybody, for being here. We're all queued up, and the telephones as well. Let me make sure the telephones are up as well. And the telephones are up as well. Anyhow, what is the program going to be about today? We have a great program for you today. As usual, the program is starting with this Tucker Carlson lie must be answered. Trump ridicules himself. Heed this nurse. Paul, 4 hours the turkey is smoking. I bet that is going to be a great turkey, Paul. I bet that's going to be a great turkey. I bet you really know what you're doing too out there in the ATL. I know you know what you're doing. Anyhow, Tucker Carlson gave a rant that must not go unanswered. This nurse tells us an unbelievable truth. The president continues the clown show. So the first video that we're going to have today, but before I get to the video, did you guys just see President-elect just had a speech that he gave? What an encouraging speech. What a positive speech. What a speech that tells Americans what we ought to do, how we ought to behave. Whether you like Joe Biden or not, that was a very good speech. He made you feel like, yes, we are all in this together. Great job. Let's keep it going. But anyhow, let's go ahead and get started with the first video. It's about this nurse. This is so bad. This is so bad. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side. This nurse has a message that I think every single Trump-supporting believer, every single person who believes the crap that Trump says should listen to. You shouldn't have to wait till you're in the position of this young man that this lady talked to really start waking up and changing what you're all about. Check this out.
Ashley Bartholomew is a former operating room nurse who was redeployed to the ICU when the OR closed down. She was caring for some of the sickest patients and recently had to make the very difficult decision to quit her job as a nurse. Ashley, you wrote on Twitter about this conversation with the patient who thought COVID was nothing more than a flu and thought some of the coverage about it was fake news. And you wrote, quote, "I make a choice, something I've never done. I say, to be honest, this is my last shift. You're the only patient of 25 that has been able to speak to me today or is even aware I'm here." He's surprised but doubtful and asks if other people are doing as well as him. I tell him, I've never seen so many people so very sick. He asks if a lot of people have died. I'm brutally honest. I tell him in 10 years of being a nurse, I've done more CPR and seen more people die in the last 2 weeks than I have in my entire career combined. What made you want to share that candid assessment, Ashley?
I was so shocked in the moment when he was saying this to me. Like I said in the thread, here I was basically wrapped in a tarp is what I say. He's in a COVID ICU and he's still kind of denying the severity of the situation.
This particular moment that you shared was your breaking point.
This moment was just, it showed me the power of denial and how misinformation and disinformation is killing us. And it made me, not nervous for not only this one patient. If he's thinking like this, there's potentially thousands or millions more, and we're in trouble if that's the case.
These folks who were in disbelief as you were trying to help them heal, how would they explain their own symptoms? How are they explaining what they were themselves dealing with in the hospital?
I'm not even sure, other than what he kind of explained to me, that, he felt like it was just really not more than a flu. And I think kind of when I showed him, explained to him just how horrible the previous 2 weeks had been for me, and, just met him on kind of like a human level, I think he started to really realize that how severe everything was.
Do you think it set in with him? What happened to him? Is he better? Is he out?
He was being transferred out of the ICU. And, that's when he kind of said, when he saw the other patients and kind of the busyness of the unit, he told me, I was mistaken. This is a lot more than just a flu. I didn't realize that I was kind of the exception. So I wished him well. And, nurses and healthcare providers, we're tired. We have family of our own that we're trying to protect, and the work and the hours and the acuity of the patients, it's grueling, tiring work. And so, do what we can to help us help you.
We spend a lot. Now, the lack of empathy on the right, many times it doesn't matter, right? Because it doesn't have a direct effect on you. But the lack of empathy with something like coronavirus is a problem, because your lack of empathy means your misbehavior, and your misbehavior can infect others. Your misbehavior can cost the life of others. And that is what makes this so different. Heed the warning from this nurse. Heed the warning from this young man who finally saw it only after he saw it with his own eyes. He couldn't believe the numbers, the 250,000 Americans that are already dead. He couldn't believe the suffering that he's seen on TV. But finally, when it happened to him, and he actually saw that he got a break, did he really see it? Try to change that empathy connection and try to make it work somewhat better. Yeah, try to make it work somewhat better. After watching that, I had seen reports that's why I had a report before, and it was so distressing to know that even with, I always talk about talking to people and creating the conversation, etc. But for those people that are still blinded, tunnel vision, to see that they can even be sick, some people on their last breath, thinking that this is a hoax because of the cultish behavior that they have in the groups that they are. That is something that we are going to have to work hard. And I know it's easy to go ahead and talk about hating these people that do this, or that is very easy. But I'm going to tell you, these people are sick. They're genuinely sick. And I'm not talking about sick as in being derogatory with them. I'm talking about these people are genuinely sick. It's a psychological problem. And we as good human beings, we ought to work with them and try to be the light that they don't want to open up and see, but we have to be there for them. I want to play you a different one here. This one here is with Brother Trump. This is so funny. Remember the stock market, it went to a high level. The stock market went up like no other. And let me play this for you, and then you'll see what I'm talking about.
How are your 401ks doing, huh? You want to see him crash? Vote for Sleepy Joe. You want to see him drop like a rock? If you want to have some fun with your family, explaining, why is it down 80%, Dad? We don't love you anymore, Dad. If he got elected, this thing will crash. He said the stock market will boom if I'm elected. If he's elected, the stock market will crash. Biden wins, you're going to have a stock market collapse, the likes of which you've never had.
Chance that Biden got in, you will have a stock market go down like you wouldn't believe.
The stock market's just broken 30,000. Never been broken, that number. That's a sacred number, 30,000. Nobody thought they'd ever see it. I just want to congratulate all the people within the administration that work so hard. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the people of our country, because there are no people like you. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. And
that's what I'm talking about. Words mean nothing. You guys remember what we played with with Mr. Ted Cruz yesterday. It was sad with Ted Cruz because Ted Cruz did something similar. In fact, I should play that one with Ted Cruz again because it is funny because these guys always have these great predictions and they always fail. When we talk about supply side economics, we've seen it fail all the time, and every time they say it's going to work, and it never works, right? And somehow with all of this, it's still the way it is. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So I mean, let me go ahead and I want to play this one here for you, just for one reason and one reason only, to show that nothing they ever say, right, really comes through. Because they've been saying those kinds of things with supply side economics. They've been saying it with everything else. Just check this out. I'm going to play this for you, and then we'll take it on the other side. Eloquent, he's intelligent. But you know what? It's just a facade. He's a great actor, just like many others who've been great actors, but have very little upstairs. Remember this prediction? Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
If it ends up that Biden wins in November, I guarantee you the week after the election, suddenly all those Democratic governors, all those Democratic mayors will say, everything's magically better. Go back to work, go back to school. Suddenly the problems are solved. You won't even have to wait for Biden to be sworn in. All they'll need is election day, and suddenly their willingness to just destroy people's lives and livelihoods, they will have accomplished their task. That's wrong. It's cynical, and we shouldn't be a part of it.
What is cynical is what he just said. The question is, do you believe? Look, I understand that these guys have the people who follow them, their sycophants, those who think that Ted Cruz is any good, those who think that Donald Trump really cares about them. I can understand those people listening to their master, listening to Ted Cruz, listening to Donald Trump saying, hey, the virus is not real, or the virus is a hoax, or the virus is not all that bad, even though we have recordings with him saying, this stuff is worse than the flu, this stuff is dangerous. But, you know, he passed it off on his people, and they believed him. But you wonder when it is Ted Cruz and these other guys starting to believe the crap that they talk. And that is exactly what Ted was doing there. He actually started to believe the crap that he spoke, that somehow magically after the election that COVID is not going to be the story anymore. If he really believes that, you have to ask the question, either one of two things. He also does believe in herd immunity and believe that somehow most people believe in herd immunity, and as such, we're going to forget about all those people dying in the hospitals. Or just maybe, which is likely the correct assessment, just maybe, this guy isn't all that smart after all. After all, Donald Trump destroyed him in the primaries by attacking his wife. Does a man not defend his wife or vice versa when attacked the way he did? And shouldn't he really hold the president accountable for that? Of course not. Again, what we're looking at is deeper than just sycophancy. It's deeper than just abiding by Donald Trump. This is a disease. It's a disease that is capable of bringing out 70-something million people for pure and utter evil. Think about the amount of work we have to do to bring all of these folks, or a lot of these folks, back into the fold, to put some humanity back in a population that has completely lost it. Absolutely. So a population that has completely lost it. Yeah, Bruce has a point. Let's leave Trump hate behind and get to work, turn in the cabinet and Congress for the future. We definitely have to do that. The one thing that I do say, however, is that we cannot leave any unanswered questions in the ether. So we answer them and then we move on. And that is exactly what I'm going to do here with El Señor, what is his name? The guy from Tucker Carlson. check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side. Tucker Carlson had a rant last night that I think needs to be answered one at a time. So I'm going to do it a bit differently than how I normally do these videos. But let's go ahead and let's get started.
You've heard a lot over the past few days about the security of our electronic voting machine. And this is a real issue, no matter who raises it or who tries to dismiss it out of hand as a conspiracy theory. Electronic voting is not as secure as traditional hand counting, period. It never will be as secure. Voters can see this because it's obvious and it makes them nervous. And why wouldn't it make them nervous?
And guess what? He starts out with a statement that every progressive would agree with. We don't like electronic voting without any kind of a paper trail so that we can go back and verify that what was recorded in those machines are actually something that we saw a voter do. So he's absolutely right. Agreed with him 100% there.
Our leaders have given us every reason not to trust technology. The people now telling us to stop asking questions about voting machines are the same ones who claimed that our phones weren't listening to us. They lie. We all know that. Other countries.
And you know what? Again, another statement of truth. In fact, we had things like some of these listening devices, one that you can say, hey, okay, Google, what's this? Or Alexa, what's that? You know, a lot of people don't realize these things are always listening to you. And the companies that it's connected to, they could tell you anything, but it's something that you can never trust because somebody at the back end, who would always be listening to that thing, whether it's a computer or something else, there is a connection between your home and that device. So it's true. You can't trust the company. So if you have any of those listening devices in your home, always remember that if you have anything very secret to talk about that you want nobody to ever know about, you should never be talking aloud so that stuff can hear you. So again, he's right.
Understand it. They don't use electronic voting because they know it undermines confidence in democracy. A system cannot function if no one trusts the vote. And that's true here too, as we're finding out. Going forward, we need to find out exactly what happened in this month's presidential election. We need to find out no matter how long it takes the investigation to unfold or how much it costs. And once we get answers from that investigation, we ought to revert immediately to the traditional system of voting, the one that served our democracy for hundreds of years. What we're doing now is not working. That's an understatement.
Okay, so check it out again. Now he says this is where he starts to get nebulous. In other words, he's implying that there's something specific to this 2020 election that is dubious compared to, let's say, the 2016 election where Donald Trump was able to scantily win the Electoral College but lose the popular vote. And this time again, lose the popular vote in a humongous landslide and still think that somehow things were rigged against the loser somehow. That is where he begins to get nebulous. Let's continue.
Tonight, the state of New York still hasn't managed to count the votes in 5 House races thanks to mail-in voting. That's a disaster. Let's stop pretending that it's not. But at the same time, we shouldn't let our focus on voting machines distract us from all that happened earlier this month. The 2020 presidential election was not fair. No honest person would claim that it was fair. On many levels, the system was rigged against one candidate and in favor of another. And it was rigged in ways that were not hidden from view. We all saw it happen. The media colluded with the Democratic nominee. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris refused to explain what they would do if they were elected. That's never happened before.
Okay, that is a statement that makes absolutely no sense. And why it doesn't make any sense is, first of all, the media colluding with the Democrats, that's an oxymoron. You look at every Sunday program. Republicans are always very well represented, and of course, Democrats, we get somebody here and there every so often. But here's the kicker. He said that never did they request of the Biden team what they stood for, but somehow did of Donald Trump. Let's remember one thing, and those that are politically aware would remember this. The Democrats had a platform that they ran on. They had a platform. It was a negotiated platform between the different factions within the Democratic Party. So they knew, the people who voted, if they wanted to know what Democrats stood for, they could always go to the platform, and there were items and items of what Democrats stood for. Guess what happened with the Republicans? Donald Trump had no platform. after the Republican convention, they decided they did not need a platform. So what Tucker Carlson is saying there is completely false. It's a lie.
Any presidential election in American history, but the media allowed them to do it. At the same time, beginning in the spring, Democrats used our public health emergency for nakedly partisan ends. They punished Trump supporters for trying to gather, but they exempted their own activists, rioters and vandals from BLM and Antifa, from the COVID lockdown.
Completely a lie. The truth of the matter is, back in February, Donald Trump knew that the coronavirus was lethal, more lethal than anything else. Even as time went on, he never told his people, and he encouraged the official manslaughter of his own constituents by going to his rallies and doing these other things. Now think about this. He did that while on the left. Yes, there were protests over the murder of black men in the streets by police officers. There were protests for other issues. But guess what was the difference between the protests done by the left and the protests done by the right, or people supporting Donald Trump? The people on the left, most of the times, a preponderance of masks were always worn. On the other side, they wanted to have nothing to do with it because their Führer told them that it will be okay. It will be okay. You need not have to wear masks because this stuff is just another flu, even as Donald Trump knew better. So let's really get these things right. And to call a lot of the violence that was occurring during some of the protests, let's remember that the right wing sent in a lot of covert people, and all of the folks that have been arrested thus far, I think sans one, they were infiltrators who did the breaking of glasses, the throwing of at police officers, etc., and the killing of others with AR-15s. Those were all done. The violence was perpetrated by the right, not the left.
Entirely. They said this out loud. The restrictions they did enforce crushed America's small businesses, the heart of the Republican Party. And yet they made their own donors fantastically richer. Jeff Bezos alone saw his net worth jump by more than $70 billion during the pandemic. Then Democrats used the coronavirus to change their system of voting. They vastly increased the number of mail-in ballots because they knew their candidates.
Now I need to stop here, first of all, as far as small businesses. It's silly to think about small businesses as being solely Republican, and somehow the policies to shut the system down had anything to do with to hurt small businesses. Yes, it hurt small businesses, and yes, that when you shut down, it hurt small businesses, and when you shut down, companies like Amazon and all of those did humongously better. But you know what? The policies that progressives stand for would have recovered that overflow of cash that would have gone to that had gone to the Amazons, etc., and reincorporated that into policies to support the businessmen. Right now, it is Republicans who are preventing all the PPP monies from going into small businesses, going into the people's hands. So no, it isn't the left that is attempting to hurt the community. It's the Republican leadership that prevents all this money from being taken from those people who have gotten the windfall and pass it back to where it belongs. You don't say business by allowing more people to die, which is what they want to do. And that had nothing to do with Bezos. The policies of Donald Trump was perfectly happy for Jeff Bezos. And as far as mail-in votes being somehow suspicious, let's listen to this and then I'll take it on the other side.
Benefit from less secure voting. They were right. They used the courts to neutralize the Republican Party's single most effective get-out-the-vote operation, which for generations had been the National Rifle Association. Not enough has been written about this, but anyone on the ground saw it. Thanks to legal harassment from the left, the NRA played a vastly reduced role in this election, and that made a huge difference.
The NRA? Really? Do you really want to go there, Carlson? The NRA in New York was sued because what they were doing was ripping off their members. These NRA executives were buying $1,000 clothes, flying private jets. They were doing all these things. They're constantly begging for money. Please, we have to make sure that they don't take away your gun rights. Progressives have never wanted to take away your gun rights or your Second Amendment rights. They never wanted to do that. They fool you. They lie to you into believing that so that you can give them money. And when they get the money, guess what they do? Those private jets, those expensive clothes. And when one of their own could take it no more, one of their own NRA executives could not take the theft anymore, they reported it. So let's get real here. The NRA wasn't attacked by the left. The NRA was stealing. The NRA was a fraudulent organization that was stealing from its constituency. That means your dues that you're paying to the NRA was going to enrich a few of the executives. Let's be real and tell the truth.
In swing states like Pennsylvania and others. But above all, Democrats harnessed the power of big tech to win this election. Virtually all news and all information in the English-speaking world travels through a single company, Google. A huge percentage of our political debates take place on Facebook and Twitter. If you use technology to censor the ideas that people are allowed to express online, ultimately you control how the population vote. And that's exactly what they did. They rigged the election in front of all of us, and nobody did anything about it.
Now that last point is so funny because we know from documentaries that were done that there was a concerted effort by the social media campaign by Donald Trump using several companies and harvesting data from Facebook to itemize and convince people of things, creating rallies false rallies from Russia. All these things are documented. That it was the Trump administration in 2016 that used social media to control people's minds. In the way they did that were to create false realities. They did that. We know about it. We understood it. It's documented. There are several HBO documentaries that were done about it. I can't remember any of them right now. But let's also remember that the owner of Facebook went ahead and had lunch with Donald Trump. And let's also remember that he told his own employees that they should take it easy on messages from the right. Remember, that's also documented and easily found. But more importantly, we cannot. How do we allow a platform with people using unlimited advertising money to lie to the American populace? Look at what Donald Trump is doing. Look at what he has said about Wisconsin. Wisconsin, the people are not supposed to be able to vote by mail. Not true. He lies and he lies and he lies. Should that be put out from the president's account as if it's factual? No. It goes with an errata. And the errata says, this is not true. Here is where you can find the true information. To call that stifling political speech is not true at all. To call it the making sure that the American people are not misled, lied to by people of power, that is what the media is supposed to do. That is what Facebook is supposed to do. And that's what we hope they do more of, not less of. So, Tucker Carlson, what you said, you had probably 10% truths in there. But most of it that you had, they were just categorical lies meant to appease your side and meant to mislead your side into believing that somehow they are the aggrieved in this election. They're not the aggrieved. In fact, if more of them were more enlightened, were telling received more of the truth, we would not have had this problem that we have right now in this country. You've lied to them, you've misled your people, and in doing so, you have hurt the country. I consider what you have done treasonous. You are a traitor to the American people. Not the legal, may not be legally so, but traitor nonetheless. Traitor nonetheless. Okay, folks, we are at the half-hour point. Oh, I think, is that a call on? I'll get to the call after I go ahead and do our intermission. Folks, if you are on YouTube right now, become a part of our YouTube posse by clicking that join button. Click J-O, that join button on that, or click the $ for a super chat and become a great old member of our YouTube posse. And what do you get for being a YouTube posse? Click on it and you see all the little features that we give those of you who are posses, which means we give you early videos, we give you early just about everything that we have, including interviews that we do with personalities. Before it goes live, you get it. And we're going to do quite a few other things. But check it out. Just click join and become a member of the YouTube posse. If you are not on YouTube right now, if you're just listening on Twitch, if you're just listening on Twitter, if you're listening on Periscope, if you're listening on Facebook Live, whichever one of our networks that you're on right now, Coffee Party USA, there is another way that you can become a member of our YouTube posse. Just go to politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. Likewise, if you want to become a Patreon, you can go to politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Patreon. That's how it's spelled. politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Patreon. And of course, we do accept PayPals as well. And that is politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. Hey, folks, you see that book on the screen? It's worth it. How to talk to your right-wing relatives, friends, and neighbors. How to talk to your right-wing relatives, friends, and neighbors. It's worth it. And when I tell you it's worth it, folks, it's worth it. So how do you get our book? Just go to this link that I'm putting in the screen. You should get this link on YouTube. You should get this link on Facebook. You should get this link on Twitch and Periscope all at once. Just click on that link to go ahead and get the book. You can either get it as an e-copy or a hard copy. If you want a signed copy of the book, an autographed copy of the book, you can purchase it directly from our store, which is at politicsdoneright.com/store. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/store. I'll autograph the book and also send to you a bumper sticker if you go ahead and get it that way. Anyhow, folks, let's go ahead and start talking. Lee Grant says, Egberto, I am amazed that you dismiss our fellow Texan Ted Cruz as a facade with very little upstairs. Your standard must be very high. Cruz graduated cum laude from Princeton University in 1992 and attended Harvard Law School, graduated magna cum laude in 1995 with a Juris degree. While at Harvard Law, he was a primary editor of the Harvard Law Review. Of Cruz's time as a student at Harvard, Professor Alan Dershowitz said, Cruz was off the charts brilliant. I will never question anybody's intelligence at all. I don't think you've heard me question anybody's intelligence other than the intellect of Donald Trump, because Donald Trump displays his lack of intellect quite often. Now, as far as Ted Cruz is concerned, it is important for us to realize, okay, that you can be the most intelligent person in the world, but if you do things that are not intelligent, you are not. Same, Ben, thank you, Bridge MCP. I love you, girl. Bridge gave us the classic case that I need to display, and that is Ben Carson. Ben Carson is the #1 neurosurgeon, best neurosurgeon in the world. Separated Siamese twins, the whole works. He knows how those neurons fly and flicker. But becoming a Trump sycophant, all of that is forgotten. That he's cum laude or whatever is forgotten. Why? Because he never used it towards making it to humanity. It doesn't. So it doesn't matter how smart you look. Let me even be better. I don't even follow the bell curve all that well, right? I know a lot of people. And I listen to everybody in this room. And I would wager that everybody in this room has the potential to learn exactly the same things, given the same structures. Okay? You see, I'm not the one that believes that, oh, you are just made immaculately bright. Every now and then you run across a genius. Don't get me wrong. I understand that. Those are things we don't understand. But for the average person, including Ted Cruz, including you, Mr. Grant, I bet if I gave you the same circumstances as Ted Cruz, you would be cum laude as well. These are things that are governed by externality, will, and all this kind of stuff. So what I'm trying to say is you can be as intelligent as you want to be. If you're not doing intelligent things, what's the point? It is like singers, right? You go to a church and you hear this person who can sing perfectly. They hit every note, they hit every key, but they're not making millions of dollars. Then you hear this singer on the network singing, and they're off key, and sometimes they're on key, and that person is a multi-millionaire because they have everybody that's listening to them or whatever. They're not the best singer at all. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't judge people by how intelligent they claim to be or their papers say they are, but I judge people by what they do. It is so important to more judge somebody by what they do, because if you have some sort of intelligence out there, and that intelligence isn't used to do good for people, what's the point? Just that you're intelligent? I don't see the point in just having intelligence. I know people. I give you a quick story. I went to University of Texas and all of that, got a degree in engineering, thought I was all that good stuff. And I'm going to call his name Leroy Gay. I don't even know if he completed high school. I know he never went to college. When I went to work for this particular company, he was the best programmer bar none. Best coder, best everything, knew about multitasking, the deadly embrace, everything about programming. And here I was, the young guy that started taking up computers and all that kind of stuff. And this guy is the person that I learned the most from. If I were to go on your standard and gone to the guy next to him that had a PhD, I would have learned very little. But that guy that taught me, that I'm not even sure if he finished high school, that taught me the tricks of the PDP-11, that's the guy that I hold that oomph for. We have a tendency to judge on papers and on those kind of things. I judge on what have you done for humanity, what have you done to make things better, and that is why I judge the intelligence of Obama differently than I judge the intelligence of, let's say, a Cruz, because this guy was very smart and he went ahead and he worked in the field, he worked all over the place, right? He did all of that. He used his intelligence to become president, to do better for others. You may not agree with a lot of things that he did. I don't. But he used what he had to make things better. I am hoping, well, not I'm hoping, I am doing the same thing with the attributes that I have. All these electronic stuff and whatever, given my engineering acumen, I could do it all on my own and didn't need, let's say, external things that would have cost a lot of money to put all of this together. So, and you out there, think about all the things that you do. We have to start reimagining what good is all about. We have to start reimagining what success is all about. When you talk about respecting that MBA who's out there making all that cash off of your work. Off of your work. That's what I'm talking about. Off of your work. Think about that. Think about that. So I want us to start, before I get into answering all the questions here, I want us to start reimagining who we respect and what we respect. It is so important because of who we respect and what we respect has caused us to have an economic system that screws us all. Because we worry about things like that investor has more value because he's putting his money at risk. We never thought about the human beings that work for the investment that he's made that put their lives at risk. All the guys that died at Hoover Dam, all the guys that died building the skyscrapers, all the guys that died building the bridges. But those guys who invested in those private sector things, right? They're the ones who get all the kudos. They're the ones who go to the parties and everybody clap for them. Oh, it's so great to have you. Look, he built that bridge. He invested and built that bridge. When many a peon died to put it together. We have to start reimagining what we respect. We have to start reimagining what we give kudos to. I give kudos to my garbage man. I give kudos to the guy who sweeps the floors. I give kudos to to those people that make things happen, those nurses, those doctors that are constantly putting themselves at risk. Those are the people I hold the regards for. Yes, the duck that quacks. I hold the public works sanitation workers in high regards. The guy who work at the sewage pump. The guys who make your life worth living. You know, I always told people, you want to know who has value in society? If you put a stockbroker who makes millions on an island and you put a farmer on an island, that farmer can look at that island and look at what that island has to offer and produce food to sustain themselves on that island. That stockbroker, now that he has no paper that means anything, is nothing. I'm not saying you don't need stockbrokers. I'm just saying we have to learn how to value those that really need valuing. And we have to start, and when we talk about equitable society and taxing the rich and all of that, and people starting to feel sorry for the rich. Oh, poor things. We're taking the hard-earned money that they've worked for. Oh, my God. No, we can't do that. We have to start thinking about the real people. You get up in the mornings, you know, a lot of people talk about wanting, they don't want moral hazard from this. The reason why the Republicans don't want to start giving away $1,200 a month per person is because it's going to create a moral hazard, and then they're not going to want to go back to work. Really? Have you ever gotten up in the morning and see the freeways? Everywhere, everybody in America, the vast majority of Americans want to work. They get up, they go to work, they make a menial salary. We have to remember that. They go out and they do all these things. Folks, I am really hoping, with a lot of the blogs that I write, with the books that I write, with the shows that we put together here, that other people listening in, will start to get that notion. First of all, lose the notion that those people that we look up to really should be looked up to, because they're not. You know, yesterday I heard, the guy who created Tesla, give me the name, guys, I can't remember right now. The guy who created Tesla just became the second richest person in the world after Jeff Bezos. And I sit there and I think, wow, these guys Elon Musk, thank you very much. He just became the second richest guy. And I'm looking at these episodes. These guys, yes, these guys are great in capitalism. They thought about ways to make money or extend, but there's nothing magical about them with the idea to get engineers and technicians to do the work to create these things. They can't fix computers. You have to think about these things. And Linda E., he's a whiz with self-taught programming and fixes computers. Guess what? Back in 1982, when the PC just came out, I took it apart, started doing all those kind of things. There are dimes a dozen Elon Musk. Let me tell you a little story. This is one that people, when I tell people this, they never believe it, but it's so true. I went to the University of Texas. I started in 1980, I believe it was. And I think Dell started in, I think it was 82 that he started, if I'm not mistaken. One of those years. But I didn't know him at the University of Texas at the time that I went. But when I came to Houston, I used to build computers. These are PCs, and we used to buy parts all over the place and build these computers. And that's how I would supplement income. I was working at NASA. I would build computers. Actually, no. At that point, I was working for NL Industries. I would build these PCs. These were these 8-channel bus PCs and all. Build the PCs and sell them. So here's the deal, though. There's a company that came into pass. PC Week magazine had full-page ads for this company called PCs Limited. and I went to PC's Limited. And the owner of PC Limited, it was a swap shop, you know. You had hard drives and you had cases and all that kind of stuff to build computers, and he just brought those things in from overseas, and he brought all this stuff in. And then I went to PC's Limited in Austin. You know, it's just a 3-hour drive from Houston, and I went and stock up on parts. And who is there? Michael Dell. Hey man, how you doing? Longhorns, you know, we are all Longhorns, right? We are all Longhorns. And we are doing the Longhorn shake and all of that with Michael Dell. And then the call-in number is the same call-in number, Hope. Let me put it on the screen again for you, just to be sure. So there is Michael Dell, and I'm talking to Michael Dell, and he's telling me the things that I'm doing, all that kind of stuff, right? And I'm telling him about the computers that I'm building, etc. I remember when I saw Dell computers come into existence. It wasn't called Dell computers. It used to be called... I can't remember what Dell Computers was called before it was Dell. But when I saw that this is a Michael Dell company and he's selling stocks, I was like, my God. The truth of the matter is, if I had lived in Austin, I would have probably been working at that swap shop with all these guys that came up with what became Dell Computers. Because again, there weren't a lot of us doing this, building computers from scratch. PCs Limited, that's it. Yeah, there weren't a lot of these. People doing this kind of stuff, and that's how I used to make quite a bit of money. I mean, I remember for one company, I built 24 of these computers. You know, so the thing in those days, man. But now he's worth $1 billion, ain't worth anything. But I mean, willfully by choice. I mean, you think about it. That is how he made it. Let me go ahead and bring, I think this is Hope. Come on in, Hope. How are you doing? Can you hear me?
Hi, Egberto. It's Hope in North Carolina.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I wanted to just wish you a very, very happy Thanksgiving and thank you again for all your work. I know I called you after the election, but you deserve another pat on the back, my friend.
Well, thank you so kindly. Thank you so kindly. How's the weather in North Carolina? You know, I love North Carolina around this time of the year.
It's nice. We had a beautiful fall, and, you know, I'm just so grateful for you and your work and some of the other people around the country who work so hard on the election. And I just can't really, I can believe that we are where we are. I just wish that a lot of people could kind of tune into why we are where we are. And I wanted to also say one more thing, you know, to everybody who's around the Thanksgiving table, hopefully not in a crowd, but if you're out and about and you run into a Trumpster regarding the $30,000 hit on the Dow, right? On the
Yes.
Dow index, the stock market hit an all-time high. You know, I trade a little bit as a retired planner who is kind of, you know, still sort of semi-retired, but I have always been very interested in economics and investment because it was understanding economic development was a huge part of my career. And what a lot of people really don't understand is that, you know, the stock market is going to become more expensive with a crashing dollar. And there are a lot of things that factor into why the market's doing what it's doing. It's not because of the almighty Trump.
Hope, you are such a genius. I mean, that concept is so important, what you brought in. If you have a deflating dollar, you have an inflate. I mean, you're such a smart woman. Look, that is such a good observation.
Well, you're smarter yourself. I'm no economist, but it doesn't take an economist to see through this BS. And, you know, I don't ever really want to say too much in defense of 45, okay? But I mean, they all do it. They all kind of take credit for it, and it's really simple math. I mean, part of why the markets are doing what they're doing too is, you know, the electric energy stocks are absolutely on fire.
Oh, yes.
Tesla's getting ready. Yeah, and I picked up the phone when I heard you talking about Tesla today because Tesla is getting ready to go on the S&P on December 31st.
Right.
Okay, and people are buying up options left and right. I mean, Elon Musk is about to solve the fiber optic problem with internet in the rural areas. And, you know, I mean, just try to ski behind the Queen Mary because you'll be lucky to get a share of it. But that's really part of what's going on, other than the exuberance that this nut is leaving Washington.
You're absolutely right. But look, thank you so kindly for calling in. And I tell you what,
Okay.
you are so, you just sort of thank me. I want to thank you and everybody else here because you know what? This is what's going to make it. This is what makes all of this happen. This is what makes all of this relevant. So I want to thank you for being a part of our posse, okay?
All right. I'm thankful that we made it. That's what's on my mind.
We
Thank
did
you.
it, girl. We did it. Hey guys, I gotta check.
Bye-bye.
We gotta do it, baby. I gotta check out of here early, my folks. So I want to thank everybody for being a part of the program. You know how I end this, baby. I am what? Out. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.